And the myth that OF is an easy way to make money still seems to linger today, with reports stating that some female students have admitted that they would turn to OF if money was tight. We've also heard that it's
Has someone ever messaged your dad besides Aunt Sarah?
Yes. I mean, my dad's had like my own sent to him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Videos.
Part of the problem is that you got these legit 3, 4s, and 5s thinking that they are 8, 9s, and 10s who will put their areolas out on the internet, but once you do that, ain't no taking it back, baby. Just to gain 10 followers at $5.99 a month, and then they all gonna cancel that very next month. Well, we got one of them ones for you guys here today. Trust me when I say you will enjoy this, all right? Seems like the world is slowly starting to heal because the regret and the sorrow of internet clout has finally caught up to many of these different OF chicks. Title of today's video is this the true cost of OnlyFans? Now, I had to go to a completely different side of the internet for this content, but it's oh so good. Comes from content creator Patience Zena, wonderful young lady who's gonna help us peel back this nasty, dirty little onion. And since we do equal accountability over here, we're going to talk about it straight because selling this kind of access for quick money and attention will always come with a price. And that price will never expire. And the internet does not forget, even if you try to lie about it, those receipts will live longer than your damn feelings. So let's get ready to lock in and let's get active without further ado.
Hello, my dears. For a long time, OnlyFans was viewed as the women's get-rich-quick scheme. And the myth that OF is an easy way to make money still seems to linger today, with reports stating that some female students have admitted that they would turn to OF if money was tight. We've also heard that it's apparently empowering and it allows women to take control of their sexuality while simultaneously freeing them from the more exploitative sides of the patriarchal industry. But now with so many...
Which is so incorrect. It's effectively e-pimping, okay? The creator, by the way, just recently passed away at like 40-something years old. I believe it was due to some form of cancer, but he is the biggest pimp known to mankind, or was rather. But let's keep going.
Young girls joining the platform, we don't really need to speculate about the potential harms or consequences because now they are taken to the internet to share with us themselves exactly what the costs have been for them for joining this platform.
Oh, great.
Firstly, no, it definitely is not easy money. In fact, the average creator makes less than $200 a month. Now that it's become a lot more saturated because more people know about it, there's a lot more competition. Add on top the fact that there are high-profile influencers as well as celebrities joining the platform, and it just generally makes it very difficult for your average woman to succeed, especially now that a lot of social media apps have become a lot more strict. So it's made it a lot more difficult for people to promote their profiles. So if you're thinking, damn, money is tight, why don't I just flash for some cash? Honestly, you are much better off finding whatever minimum wage job you can get your hands on because one, it will pay you more, and two, it will come with less of the consequences.
Yeah,
so let's actually talk about this.
I mean, at number 3, you know, you go get your job at Subway or McDonald's, you can still make your ancestors proud, okay? As opposed to shelling your sphincter up online for a nominal fee. You understand me? Part of the problem is that you got these legit 3, 4s, and 5s thinking that they are 8, 9s, and 10s who will put their areolas out on the internet, but once you do that, ain't no taking it back, baby. Just to gain 10 followers at $5.99 a month, and then they all gonna cancel that very next month.
Consequences, shall we? No, I'm not gonna bore you with the stuff that we hear all the time, like how it's gonna affect your dating life or how it carries a lot of social stigma. I know that you know. You know? I'm much more interested in discussing the sides that are probably less discussed. Like, since we are on the topic of money, I think that someone who is considering doing OF as a way to up their salary or up their income because their job isn't paying them enough should probably reconsider that. Because in some cases there have been, or many cases rather, a lot of people who have tried to join OF in order to try and increase their monthly earnings have actually been discovered by their employers and as a result have actually lost their job, which puts them in an even worse financial position than before they started. Another thing to also consider that a lot of people think they can get around is your family finding out about your content. Not only finding out, but in some cases even subscribing. Stepfathers have subscribed or their dad's friends.
Have you like recognized any of the names in here of people that you might know?
Oh yeah, definitely.
This chick
There's been
don't
some
care.
guys like outwardly say like we used to go to school together.
Wow.
Or some of like dad's friends and stuff like that.
What messaging you?
Yeah. I just tried to keep it very professional.
She's a multimillionaire, though.
Quite weird, isn't it? And I think it is also important to remember that there are all sorts of characters on the internet, and there are some people who are spiteful enough to find out who your family are and actually deliberately send them this type of content. This is something that many creators have discussed happening to them. One creator is Lily Phillips. She's been candid about the fact that her parents, in particular her dad, has been sent content that she's posted on her OF page.
Has someone ever messaged your dad besides Aunt Sarah?
Yes. I mean, my dad's had like my own sent to him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Videos, papers, news articles, phone calls.
What does he say? Like, does he message you like, yo?
No, it was more of a tearful phone call of, I don't appreciate seeing that.
Oh, no.
I do think that as
having a daughter in today's society has to be a lot more fear-inducing than having a young boy. The degree of psychopathic that you must have within your body to continue to do an activity where your father is crying on the phone, begging you to stop is new levels. By the way, the young lady described that the dad's friends wanting to see the adult daughter's cooch as weird, and then the old people that used to go to school with her as weird. I completely disagree. I think if you make that the standard, I think the normalization should be, yeah, dudes want to see what your insides look like. And it is up to you not to show it unless you are deep within a committed relationship with them. Slights like that it's weird, sort of contributes that men are evil, that they're dogs, that they can't control themselves. But I look at human behavior. If most men want to see young naked women, maybe it's not a weird thing. Maybe it's a normal thing. But it's up to women to provide a barrier to entry in order to be able to see it. You know, things like time, attention, and commitment would make more sense. Let's go.
More and more successful and well known on the platform, this kind of stuff is just way more likely to happen to you. And so I do think that if anyone was to try and join the platform, they should go in it with the assumption that your family, especially your parents, are going to find out. Speaking of Lily Phillips, Stacey Dooley actually did a documentary on her, and I found it really interesting because we got to meet her parents. Listening to her parents share how they feel about what she does was actually quite hard to watch, because it was like listening to an intervention for a drug addict as their parents beg them to stop what they're doing while telling them how it's harming them. Except the problem is the addict is not yet ready to sober up. Within the documentary, her parents expressed their desperation for her to stop what she was doing, stating that they would give her anything if it could make her stop doing the extreme stunts that she was doing, even going as far as to offer to sell their house and give her the money if it's money that is motivating her to stay in this line of work. But all their pleas unfortunately do land on deaf ears, as Lily does make it very clear that she has no intention of stopping, although she does acknowledge that her choice is selfish.
Sometimes I guess it just makes me feel quite selfish to put my parents through that. I mean, ultimately it is selfish.
Is it easier to just not talk about, it's just easier not to talk about it because then no one gets upset.
Exactly. And so when I'm around my parents, it's so wholesome. We don't even talk about work. We're just back to like...
Really?
It's quite clear based on how upset she is that this is probably not something she really actually thought about. I doubt that she actually considered how this could affect the people she loves. I think for many young women who join this industry, they might have considered the consequences when it comes to themselves, but they often don't think about how those consequences will extend to the people they love. Because ultimately, we are living in a time where people say, do whatever makes you happy, but we don't exist in a vacuum. Yeah. So although you might be signing yourself up for things while you understand the consequences for yourself, it's also important to remember that the consequences don't end with you. But to be honest, even if Lily was to quit, there's no guarantee that her parents would stop experiencing all of this harassment, as we've learned from other creators like Nala Ray.
Like on the outside of that, there are huge consequences to your actions. Like the amount of people that have like sent me and my husband death threats, the amount of people who have sent my husband things from my past consistently week by week is like so hard for him to deal with, and then for me to be like ashamed about, you know, because I'm constantly being reminded of the things I've done when I just want to live, you know.
Doesn't matter.
I'm out of it now. I know I'm out of it, but yet I keep getting brought back to that.
Shut up.
Because of ignorant people on the internet wanting to remind me of the consequences that I deserve now in their head.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I also...
And never stop. Never stop. One of my favorite animes of all time is Full Metal Alchemist. They had a terminology which kind of guided the plot line of the show. And that terminology was the law of equivalent exchange. And the fundamental principle behind this law stated that in order to create something of equal value must be sacrificed or exchanged. These women have created multi-million-dollar empires for themselves, doing effectively one of the oldest jobs known to mankind. There used to be a time in our history where those jobs were on the lowest rung of society. Now they've become influencers. Oh, but wait. So although the owner of OF has effectively e-pimped her, she's created significant value for herself. But what must be sacrificed in exchange because she's done considerable damage to the young men that will watch her content? And I think it's her ability to live a normal life without getting jeered at. People should not be sending her death threats or anything like that, but a constant reminder of what it was that you came from, as if you just get to leave this behind and run away as a multimillionaire, is absolutely absurd. Because, you know, take a look at the Larry Wheelses out here who have had a straight up addiction based off of the content and then also his substance abuse that women like this have uploaded. In olden times, I'd put a scarlet letter on your cloth. Now they send you a DM of what you contributed to. Let's go.
What I also did find really interesting about listening to Lily Phillips's parents is they offered some extra nuance into this rising trend that we've seen of these OF girls saying how their parents support them and what they're doing. And Lily is one of these creators who used to say that her parents are very supportive of her. They say within the documentary that what they thought she was doing was just posting kind of the pictures that a lot of girls post on Instagram. Lingerie, bikini shoots. And I guess they probably didn't see a problem with that because they essentially just viewed it as glamour modeling.
Gateway drug.
After all, like, there are a lot of mainstream high-end fashion models who pose like that and who have those kind of photo shoots. So I guess they probably didn't see it as distasteful. And Lily herself also admits that she definitely downplayed what she was doing and she wasn't entirely honest with her parents about the extent of the kind of content she was posting online. However, as she became a bit more infamous because of her stunts, they inevitably found out what she was doing and they weren't very happy about it. And so I do wonder if this could be the more realistic circumstance of some of these parents who we hear are apparently supportive. Are they truly supportive, or are they just not aware of what OF actually is? And so they might not really think of it as anything more than just being a YouTuber. Then I imagine you have the parents like Lily Phillips's parents who don't approve of what she's doing and have gone as far as to try and get her to stop. However, if they don't want to stop, you're kind of forced into making two choices. You either have to just unfortunately tolerate it, because the alternative is to potentially be estranged from your daughter. Because it's not uncommon for people to end up not speaking to their parents because they fall out over the fact that they're doing this kind of content. But there are, of course, those parents that are the exception who actually genuinely do support their daughter
they want that money.
Doing this. Like Bonnie Blue's mum, for example. I saw her Channel 4 documentary and it was quite interesting to hear Bonnie Blue's mum say that she basically essentially believes that everybody's morals and values would take a nosedive into hell if they were offered £1 million. I personally think that's more of a projection, but you know, it's quite clear that she does support her daughter because of the fact that she understands just how lucrative this is. I do think the internet is quite interesting because it definitely has rewired our psychology. Because I do think that because things are online, people treat them with a lot less seriousness compared to if the exact same thing was happening offline. I mean, after all, we hear people saying things like the internet is not a real place or social media isn't real life. I think it's very easy for people to feel disconnected from their online selves, and so they might post and do and say things that they would never do in public or do in person. People might feel very comfortable posting revealing images of themselves or posing in very skimpy bikinis or lingerie online, but they would never, for example, walk like that in the street. Now, I know some people might say I'm comparing apples and oranges, but in reality, the internet is like a digital street. You don't know these people. You have no idea who they are. You have no idea what they're doing with your content. And so how different is it to just going out in the street where you're exposing yourself to people who you don't know? Yeah, sure, in the real world, you'd be exposing yourself to potential physical harm and physical harassment. However, online, you're still exposing yourself to digital harm and digital harassment, whether it's people sharing your stuff and leaking it all over the internet or sending it to your family members. And I feel like nothing really shatters the whole notion that what happens online stays online than stalking.
Over the last 2 years, I have reached my financial goals, but it came with costs that I never fully anticipated. I have been stalked multiple times. I have filled multiple police reports. I've filed restraining orders, and my anxiety is at an all-time high. The private life that I thought I could keep outside of social media is getting harder and harder to protect every single day. I've also had a break-in that forced me to increase my personal security.
So no, this stuff definitely does not.
Newsflash, if you posting things to public platforms, right, you do what I do. A content creator like myself and the young lady that's on the screen, you open yourself up to that. But if the things that you post are degenerate or you have extremist views, you significantly increase the chances of stalking happening.
Stay online. And I also think that it's quite naive to think that it can't have real world in-person consequences. And I do think a lot of people would act differently if they treated the internet like the street. If you wouldn't go outside and do that in the street, then probably don't post it on the internet. I think another thing as well that I've seen some OF creators discuss is the permanence of their content. For many of them, they don't actually consider the fact that their content will be on the internet forever.
And the reality is, images of my body are gonna be online forever. Something I can never undo or take away, no matter how my life changes in the future. People will constantly judge and pick apart every decision you make. And sometimes the hardest part is staying silent because you realize that no matter what you say, some people will just never respect your thoughts or opinions because of what you do for a living.
And that's fine. It's part of the game.
Is this really that surprising? When you consider just how young many of these girls are, it's quite normal for young people to just not think long term. But in reality, their content will outlive them. Even when they're long gone, their content will still be surfacing on the internet because the fact of the matter is, it's actually true that the internet is forever because people can leak your stuff, copy it, send it around. And so it's very difficult for you to completely erase all of this stuff, which is what makes some women feel like they just can't escape their past. Even if they delete their accounts and try and start fresh, it's hard because it's always going to come back to haunt them. And this is also the reason why some women end up just staying in the industry, because even if they want to leave and they don't actually want to do it anymore, it makes it quite difficult for them to move on to other things. What was once perhaps seen as a stepping stone starts to feel more like an obstacle once they start desiring to pivot.
I mean, it's basically their legacy to this world, right? It's what they wanted to be known for in order to make a quick buck. No matter how harsh that sounds, that's the reality. But that's what needs to be said, and it's so important. Shit. I'm thinking of girls, I remember this, she was a YouTuber. She was a TikToker first, then she went over to YouTube, and her shorts were blowing up. This got to be like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I cannot ruin this young lady's name, but she went viral for like sniffing like her friend's breast, but it was like funny in the way that she did it. Then she get up on OnlyFans, and she starts, I couldn't believe it. Oh, it broke my heart because I thought she was super duper talented. If y'all know who it is that I'm talking about, please write her name down below because I should probably do a biopic on that shit. But she's an example that, you know, she didn't hear these critiques and or criticisms, and she probably got viral doing short form content and probably wanted the upgrades to her life without being able to properly monetize it, and then said to herself, all right, I got huge ass tits. I might as well just put it up on the internet, right? But since then, she's scrubbed it absolutely clean because I tried to look for them bad boys just because I was going to do a video on it a long time ago, and I just never got around to it. But, you know, them things is probably available on someone's hard drive somewhere where they can bring it up to her in any form or fashion, right? Like if she ever decides to get married, and let's say that she was able to hide that component of her life from who would soon be her husband, and then she announces it publicly, what you think someone who's been keeping that up on a hard drive for the last 7-8 years, right? Like if he might be saying to himself, I must warn the brother. Here goes her titties from 8 years ago and send him a DM in regards to it. It's equivalent exchange, baby. You don't get out this game for free. Sorry. Even the things that I'm doing up on the internet, I ain't get out this game for free. I was outside the other day trying to take a lovely young lady out to go eat. I had 5 different people come up to me and be like, yo, what up, son? I wasn't even I don't even tell these chicks what I do. You know what I mean? Like I tell you, some of them I'll be like, yeah, I work in a crematorium or like whatever it is that I make up shit from time to time just to have some fun with it. See how long I can go along with it. But how am I going to hide some shit if like, right, it's equivalent exchange though, baby. I try to give y'all content. I try to help y'all within y'all life. When I go out in reality, it's all love. Y'all dap up. But there's a component of my privacy that, I'll never have again. You know what I mean? Equivalent exchange term for the day. Let's go.
By us hearing how empowering and freeing OF is, I guess we need to start asking the question of just how true is that really?
It's
because
not.
Yes, it's definitely freed women from the traditional industry, and so they have the ability now to post what they want, when they want, and also keep most of the profits. So I guess in that sense, it's freeing, but how freeing is it really when this kind of content will live on the internet forever and you'll never be able to escape it regardless of whether you delete your account? This kind of stuff will be sent to your family members, to your future partner or husband, your future children or grandchildren. Knowing that your images...
even think about it like this. You don't even own the audience. The platform owns the audience. I guess you can go through and individually ask for emails and shit like that to be able to say, put it up on your own email list. But the audience is owned by the OF platform. So not only are you uploading content that they're profiting off of with doing no additional work besides building the platform, but then also they get all of the data. And guess what? They sell that data, allegedly. And they'll make money off of that, allegedly, right? I don't want to say no definitive statements, but that's the play on most of these companies. I just did the review yesterday on Kendra G dating app. You think she's doing that out of a labor of her heart? No, she's probably making money on that data. Allegedly, okay? Content creators know that the real exit strategy is owning the data. It's not just communicating with you guys based off of the platforms that we are on. It's owning the data. And the majority of these chicks that get up in these platforms and they put up photos of their labia minora as well as majora, they're not thinking about that, right? They're not thinking about the business aspect. They're just like, hey, listen, in the real life, they want to see my goods, so online, they want to see it as well. You know what I mean? Let's go.
Are immortal and people can do whatever they please and want with them doesn't really sound very freeing or liberating to me. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every single woman who enters this line of work regrets it or will regret it. There are some women who generally enjoy and love doing what they do. We might not necessarily understand it, but they definitely exist. And I think pretending they don't is disingenuous. But I have noticed a certain pattern with those kinds of women. First of all, they often get into it later in life, like at least 25 plus. They also don't get into it because of desperate times, and they also don't tend to be agreeable. I've noticed that the women who are the least likely to regret it are not agreeable at all. These are women who are very comfortable setting boundaries and defending those boundaries, and they quite simply don't do anything they don't want to do, regardless of who is asking them to do it. And I think because of that, they have a lot more control. And so it's harder for them to end up in these situations that they're more likely to regret, because everything they do is on their own terms and everything they do is what they've actively chosen, not because they were pressured into it or coerced into doing it. But with so many impressionable, freshly 18-year-olds who don't really meet that profile, I do think that we're going to see a very large fallout in years to come, especially when you consider the reasons why many of them are getting into it is because of the fact that they're struggling financially. Because if you're doing something out of desperation, I definitely think that there is a psychological harm in ignoring your natural instincts in order to do something that you feel you have to do in order to survive. I guess ultimately, I think it's just really important for people to really consider the gravity of the decisions that they make, because there are genuine consequences to all of the actions that we choose. And when it comes to something like this, you really, really need to think about it and consider it from all angles, because the truth is, once you're in, you can't really go back. But I would like to know what you think. Do you think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of these kinds of stories of young women discussing their regrets or discussing the harms or the consequences that they've experienced from joining this platform? Or in a strange twist, do you actually think that this stuff could become more normalized because of how many young girls are on there? Because I have actually wondered about this. If there's an increasing number of young women joining this platform, that means that there's going to be an increasing number of people whose family members are on this platform. And if that becomes more and more common, Could it get to a point where it just becomes normalized at this point? And the social stigma starts to wane because of just the sheer numbers of people who are doing it.
Yeah,
or
no.
could it be like smoking, where this thing had
It
a
was
buzz
had a fad.
and
It was a
people at
fad.
the time didn't really think about it because they didn't know the harms. But as we are now seeing more and more of the harms, people develop an even more negative attitude towards it, and it becomes even more stigmatized. And perhaps we start seeing people putting in place policies and stuff to police it. I guess I'm kind of curious to know which direction this goes in, but I would be curious to know what you think. Do you think that this is a sign that it's going to become...
I think I get your question, baby girl. Here's the thing. I think that we've already hit the heyday of what this is online. And even though we've hit that heyday, we still have the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. The majority of people that get up on it, either A, they're not built for it for real, right? Like they might be somewhat freaky, right? But they're not about this corn star life. The ones that are actually doing it, who take this on like a job, they're uploading content each and every day. The kind of creativity that is necessary within that to hold on to an audience is not easy, okay? That is not easy. Because I know what I do as a content creator, having to talk about things within my niche. It is not easy either, okay? But I can be proud in the things that I talk about. And I am proud and humbled that I had those 5 dudes dap me up and thank me for the content. And they were all different ages. I'm talking about gray hair, bald head, all the way down to, hey, man, I was 25, I got divorced, and your video saved my life. The numbers are what they are. Most of them don't make any money. So I think intelligently, you would be able to consider that and say, like, you know, it's eventually going to die out. You know, of the women that are real to this, right? Like, they're not new to this. They are completely true to this. They don't give a shit. It's a very small amount, right? Like, in comparison to the majority of women that want to be agreeable, want to have deep relationship, want to eventually have a family one day, right? Even though they have modern woman ideologies, right? Like, they still want all of these things, and they really truly don't have the appetite of what is necessary to be great on a platform like this. But that's an intelligent, logical assessment of what I think is probably should happen, but we know most people don't make decisions off of rationale and logic. They just go into their goddamn feelings and emotions, or some of them might feel like they back up against the wall. But the ones, again, like she said, the lovely young lady, the ones with the back up against the walls are not the ones that are successful. It's the ones that are later off in life and they make kind of this decision, and it's just a part of who they are. They get gratification out of uploading this content, right? And they want to master the business that exists within it. And for all of that, I say, we got to start teaching the young girls early, because the decisions that they are making are often quick, but the consequences are permanent. And many of these more agreeable, more lemming-minded young women might see a high number attached to an account and might think, oh yeah, well, I can do something like that, without really considering the long-term implications and them, you know, not having a leader in and around them, even like an older brother, if not a father, to guide them in a better direction. But if they do, nobody forced them. They made their own adult-ass decision, and they got to live with said consequences. So anyway, lovely video. Guys, I'm going to leave it down up in the description box so you can go check out her channel. Let me know what you guys think. All right. We went over a lot of different thoughts and our concepts within this, but I want to hear what you guys say, or think rather. Put it down in the comment box. I appreciate you guys for constantly coming back. Whether or not you agree, disagree. Agree or disagree. I don't know if y'all just heard that, but the video restarted. Whether or not y'all agree or disagree, write it down in the comment box, and let's continue to encroach on these conversations. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
She belongs to the street. Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.